Hey there, welcome to another video. Today we're going to do an unboxing from Aquarius, which kindly sent me some new products and one thing that I requested. So I will open everything and we will swatch everything, and thank you so much to the brand for, I always want to say it and then I'm scared I will mispronounce it. So it's Roman Sismal? I'm not sure, but thank you. These are handmade in Poland. This is the Aquarius Violet. This one I requested. I absolutely love this color. This is the set. It's a metal box and it says the essentials. And there are 28 pans and these are the colors. Oh, I see Aquarius Violet is in this set. And there are also some interesting, oh, the Aquarius green. I'm so happy. I wanted to try this and I was too embarrassed to ask to ask them to send it to me. So I only asked for the violet, which I know that I love. But there are some great colors here. From first glance, it looks like a great beginner set. And I mean, this is beautiful. You can get all of these on Jackson's. Okay, let's get unboxing. Now, the first thing I always recommend to do is spray your watercolors with a little bit of water. In the case of Aquarius watercolors, they are very juicy and creamy, so you don't need a ton of water, but a little bit will help you get the full intensity. This is actually quite important and a step I recommend not missing. Okay, the first color is Buff Titanium. Buff Titanium is a classic color that pretty much every brand has, and I really enjoy using it, and I'm very happy that they included it in this set. It's great for adding a little bit of opacity, a little bit of muddiness, and yeah, lovely color. Then we have the yellows. So there are two yellows, which I think is all you need. The first one is Hansa Yellow Light. It's more of like a lemon yellow. And the second one is Hansa Yellow Medium, which is, as you can see, warmer. This palette is called the Essentials, which means that you want maximum variety with your color choices, and therefore having these two yellows is a great start. Then we have a few earth tones, and I'm not a huge fan of earth tones. I don't use them a lot. This is personal preference, but they are very useful, especially if you want variety. And I think the choices that they made here are beautiful. The first one is Gold Ochre. It's PY43. It's just this lovely kind of earthy, ochre-y goodness that is beautiful to have. Next, we have the Nickel Azo Gold, which is just this glowy, it's kind of like a quinacridone gold color. I love it. This is the kind of color, it's very popular. It's great in landscapes and florals and just gives you that golden glow. Then we have, the next color is Mummy Transparent Red, and then we have Blue Ridge Burnt Sienna. These two are similar. I really prefer the Mummy Transparent Red, and I've done some fun mixing with it in the Joy Art Club, which is my monthly membership, just to see what it can do. It is granulating, it is earthy, it is lovely. Burnt Sienna is Burnt Sienna. I think this is a nice version of it. It's just not a color that I personally use a lot. I had to slow this down because I was going too fast. Then we get into some of the oranges and red. Actually, there is only just one orange. It's Aquarius Orange, and it's a bright orange. Oranges are not essential because you can easily mix them, especially when you have a variety of yellows and reds and pinks. But it's a nice convenience color to have. And before that, the first one in this row is actually Pyrrole Scarlet. This is more of like a fire engine red. I love these orange leaning reds, and they're great to have when you're painting. They really add kind of that pop. And of course, they're great for mixing. Then we have the pinks. We have quinacridone red, which is kind of like a pinkish red. It's beautiful, it's transparent, loved by many, and for good reason. And then we have Pyrrole Rubin. This is more of like an alizarin crimson type of red. Lots of artists love having this in their palettes. Again, it will give you a lot of variety in an essential palette. Personally, it's not my favorite color, but I definitely see the use of it. Next, we have quinacridone magenta. Now, this is more like it. This one is called quinacridone magenta intense, and it is quite intense. It is deep. It is lovely, and I've had a lot of magentas that as they dried, they kind of lost their luminosity and intensity, and, you know, they looked amazing wet, but then they were just kind of like, okay. This one stays intense and it's beautiful. Next, we have another glorious color. This is called Mineral Pink. To me, it reminds me of Daniel Smith Rose of Ultramarine, but with a little bit of a kick to it. It's quite intense. And it's just lovely. It has in it PB29, which is ultramarine blue. So you have that granulation. Again, I played around with it in the color mixes in the Joy Art Club and got some really, really beautiful mixes with this color. Then we have Indian Red. Indian Red is a classical color, very, very intense, opaque, kind of earthy, browny red color. Loved by many, not by this YouTuber, but yeah, it does appear in a lot of essential palettes, and yeah, it's a good addition to have for like a well-rounded palette. Now we're moving into some turquoises and blue. So the first one, I'm very, very happy that they included it. This is Cobalt Sea Blue PB28. Now, this color is the cobalts. Many times you will not find cobalts in these like basic essential sets, and I'm really glad that Aquarius included it in here. I love this kind of color, cobalt teal, cobalt turquoise. It has different names. It's usually actually used with PG50 to make it, but some brands make it with PG28, and it kind of looks the same. It's beautiful. It's not a color that is super easy to mix, and I'm really, really glad that it's included in the set. Then we have Lavender, which is basically ultramarine blue with some white and a touch of purple. I love this color as a convenience color, and I'm really glad it's included here, but it is a color you could mix by yourself. Next we have, I'm still not catching up with myself, Cobalt Cerulean Blue. Now, I have to tell you that cameras get weird with turquoises, and the Cobalt Cerulean Blue is more turquoisey than it appears on screen. So I'm sorry, you'll have to take my word for it. It's just a little bit leans slightly greener than it appears. But again, it's a granulating color, and I really love these. That they're included in this palette because they give you that kind of earthiness, that granulation, which really helps when you're painting things, you know, in real life. I love bright colors, but you really do need some more realistic tones to let those brights shine if you choose to use them. Okay, trying to catch up. Next, we have Misty Morning. Now, this is a crowd favorite, it seems, and it is PG50 and PV19. This is, again, like this granulating, separating color. It's lovely, it's unique, and I love that they included it in the palette. Then we have Phthalo Blue, a classic color, very versatile, very intense. Again, the camera makes it look kind of more reddish than it is. It's a classic Phthalo Blue. If you know that shade, that's what you have here. They included the green shade. Very solid choice. Then we have Ultramarine Intense. This to me is a must-have, and this is a beautiful version of Ultramarine. They're kind of similar across brands, I have found. The next one is Cypress Burnt Umber Deep. It is a useful color to have, and I think, you know, it's a lovely version for what it is. It's just, I'm not a huge user of earth tones. Okay, now we're getting to the exciting row. I think they're all kind of exciting, but this one is really, really fun. The first color, which I fell in love with, is Autumn Green. It is a mixture of 3 pigments, and it's just like beautiful. It has a little bit of that yellowy, earthy tone to it, which gives it kind of that vibrancy, but in a beautiful way, not in a garish way. And then we have two greens, which are kind of classic, and, you know, I see why they would be included in an essential palette, but I feel you need to kind of mix them with something to make them more usable. So that's sap green and phthalo green. Okay, I have to pause this video for a second because I can't keep up with my swatching. So forgive me for the freeze frame. The next green is Aquarius green. Again, this is 3 pigments, including ultramarine blue. There's a brown in it and a yellow. I love this green. You can see it's like dark, it's intense. A lot of artists prefer to mix their own greens, and I do mix my own greens a lot, but I really, really love having these kind of convenience greens in my palette where I don't have to mix them. And sap green and phthalo green, for me personally, they don't tick that box. So I don't usually have these kinds of greens in my palette, but I have things like autumn green and Aquarius green, and they're both just beautiful. They are earthy, they are granulating, and I just really, really enjoyed having them in this palette. Then we have Shadow Violet, which is just like a lovely kind of bluey violet. This is again a mixture of 3 pigments, including PG50 and PB29. So these will give you lots of lovely granulation, and then PV19, that's dioxazine violet, if I'm not mistaken, and this will give you intensity. You really want to have some darks in your paintings, and this is a great choice. It's not as beautiful, in my humble opinion, as the next one, which is Aquarius Violet. I'm obsessed with this color. I love kind of using a muted purple violet as my dark in my paintings. Between that and like a dark muted green, I'm happy with dark values. And this version is just so beautiful. I absolutely love it. Highly recommend it. Whether you get this set or you grab it as like open stock, it's glorious. And then the last one is Payne's Gray. It's like a nice intense version of Payne's Gray. But honestly, I would prefer using Aquarius Green or Aquarius Violet as my grays, or, you know, you could neutralize them a little bit with their opposite. So that is it with the Essential palette. Before we get into swatching these open stock colors, including the mysterious November color, I have to say, in my opinion, this palette, the Essential one, is beautiful. This would be such an amazing set to familiarize yourself with the brand or start out with watercolors. You get so much here. You get a ton of product and you get a lot of versatility. You could really mix almost any color in the world with this palette and then some. They included some beautiful pigments here, like the Cobalt Sea Blue and the Cobalt Cerulean, and they also included some of their unique mixtures, which I just love that they did that. So to me, that really elevates the set beyond just like essentials to include some of the brand's unique mixtures. And if you're starting out with watercolor, if you want to try the brand, if you want kind of a one go-to set, this is a great option. So let's get into these open stock colors that I got. The first one is Carmine. Then we have Quinacridone Warm Pink, Quinacridone Rose, and Quinacridone Magenta. My favorite, these look, and this is across brands, these look glorious when they're wet, and then sometimes when they dry, they just, as I mentioned before, they're just like, okay. Now you can see that the Carmine is a little bit more muted to start with. It's just the nature of the pigment, and then the quinacridones are more bright. My favorites are the Quinacridone Rose and the Quinacridone Magenta Intense, which you can see here again, and it also comes in the set. So if you want those bright, lovely pinks, the quinacridones are probably your best bet. Next, we have Lava. This is a mixture of 3 pigments, and I absolutely love it. It again goes, these are just the colors that I personally love, and I love using them as dark colors. And I find that also when you kind of water them down, you get all that like separation and granulation, and it's just a beautiful addition to your palette. And Lava is definitely going on that list. It's a little bit kind of more pinky earthy than, you know, the purples that were in the essential set, but it just like separates and granulates in a most beautiful way. Yeah, love it. Then we have Burnt Sienna Brownish. You know, it's an earth tone. I can't get too excited about them, but you know, that might be your like favorite color. Then we have an interesting color. This is German Green Earth. This is PG 23 and it's marked as a non-granulating. I don't know, I see a little bit of texture in my swatch, and I think this could be an interesting alternative to Buff Titanium, just like with a little bit of greenish tint. So I would need to experiment more with this color to tell you my opinion. Forest Green is another mixture of 3 pigments, and I probably prefer the other 2 greens that I was talking about before. This is a nice one. It's kind of more, I would say, a very, let's say, more basic green. It's not too earthy, not too golden, not too dark, kind of in the middle. Yeah, it is what it is. Then we have Indigo Greenish. This is lovely, kind of that deep, intense indigo. It does lean a little bit greener, not like super, super bluey, but I'm sure many would love it. Then we have Iron Chromite, I want to say. And this one is interesting. Again, I need to test it a bit more to see if it works for me. It looks lovely. It's granulating, so we'll see. Then we have, next we have Davies Gray. This is, again, it's kind of like this light color. It's definitely more greenish than the German green, but yeah, it's a color I need to experiment. I haven't painted a lot with it. Next, we're moving to the mystery color of November 24. And you can see this is sort of in that realm of indigo, indanthrene blue. It's really, really lovely. I don't know the pigment information on this. It didn't have it, but it's really a lovely kind of inky deep blue, which I personally love. Then we have Lapis Lazuli. This is a granulating pigment. It's one of those like really, really classical pigments that artists have been using forever, and it's beautiful. I'm very much an ultramarine blue gal, so we'll see. I mean, this is a beautiful color, so I'll definitely try to use it. And now I just wanted to swatch the greens that came in the essential palettes to show you how they look next to that forest green. So I'm swatching autumn green, and then I'll swatch Aquarius green. You can see now the autumn green, it looks on the screen kind of this bright green, looks a little bit garish. I mean, no offense, this might be like your favorite color. To me, I'm not a fan of this shade of green that is now on the screen, but I can tell you that, again, my camera is playing tricks on us, and it's just a beautiful, I feel like this autumn green is sort of like a love child of olive green and green gold. If you can imagine that color, that's what I think autumn green is. And then the Aquarius green is just like this deeper, darker green that I love. So if I had to choose, you know, which greens to get, I would probably skip the forest green and get the autumn green and Aquarius green, as they are super lovely. What I'm going to do next is actually I'm going to curate my perfect palette from all of the colors that I got. Before I get into my opinions of the set, I just want to show you that I switched it up. I find those huge tins just a bit too big for my personal preference. And so I was inspired by Sandy Hester and one of her recent videos to rearrange the pans in this smaller tin. Now, I can't fit 28 into it, but I think I fit 23, something like this. And for me, that was quite enough. I could remove a few of the earth tones that personally I don't find necessary. I think I removed also a couple of those greens, like that sap green and phthalo green, just because I know that personally I don't use them. And so I could very easily curate quite an extensive palette using a smaller tin. So you'll see me just like rearranging and auditioning some of the colors. I did include my favorites, and then I had space for a couple of new to me or like newer to me paints. And I'm not sure I will keep them. Like one of them was, I think, raw umber or something like this. That's probably, I mean, that's just a brown. So it'll probably find its way out and I will replace it with, I don't know, another color that I like. So next, after organizing this palette, which I absolutely love, I also did what Sandy did with her palette, and I actually removed the front like mixing area. I didn't feel like I needed it, and it was just like taking up space. So there's just like this thin metal stick that you just have to remove from the hinges, and it just comes right off. So I did that to my palette as well. Now let's talk about this palette. I absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic essentials palette. I think if you're starting out with watercolors, you will have so many options here. Not only did they include pretty much, you know, a really solid range of colors that you would need to mix pretty much any other color, they also added some of their own concoctions and recipes to particularly pretty separating and granulating watercolors, which personally I really, really appreciate that. And I think they make this set definitely like extra. It's like essentials plus plus. So personally, I think their color selection for this set is really on point. Now, on a personal preference level, I have very strong color preferences. So I was able to kind of curate my own favorite set using many of the colors in the essential set. And I do encourage you, you know, whether you get this set or a different set from Aquarius, to really make it work for you. And you always have the options of like picking up a few more colors open stock and then switching them up to create kind of your perfect palette. Now, if you want to see a full demo of this piece and another one that I painted, then I invite you to join us in the Joy Art Club, where in December I will be sharing this process video, but much slower, not so much sped up, and another one that I actually created right after this one, where I also brought in some watercolor sticks. So I tend to use mixed media. As you can see, I don't just use watercolors. I love sketching with pastels. And yeah, I talk a lot more about my process in my monthly membership and courses. But getting back to this palette, I feel like it's almost perfect. And as I said, I'm very, very particular with color. And so I have my own curated palettes. In the last year, I've also incorporated some gouache into my regular watercolor painting. But this palette it's really good. And as I said, like, to me, having those unique colors like Aquarius green, like Aquarius violet, and even some of the I would say, a little bit weirder colors like Misty Morning, I think it is. They really elevate this, especially if you like separating and granulating watercolors, which I absolutely do. Those have become essential in my painting process, and I'm just so happy that Aquarius have so many of these kinds of colors in their range. It's a very trendy thing, it seems, and more companies are joining the trend with a lot of granulating and separating watercolors. But Aquarius have a great formula, and the fact that you can get the pans for a really great price mean that you can try a bunch of these. And yeah, you're not always able to do that with like more expensive brands that offer these colors sometimes just in like large tubes. So I love that option. And yeah, I've been quite obsessed with Aquarius Violet, but some of their other colors like the Lava, that's one of the new ones. I also added it to this palette, and Mineral Pink, that's also a really great one. It's like so intense and beautiful. So I had the best time playing around with this set, and again, I will show you some close-ups just so you can see the beautiful granulation of a lot of these colors. Now, I try to mention this in every video because granulation and how it will appear in your painting is dependent on two major factors. One is, of course, granulating or separating watercolor, and the other one is the paper. So the paper does play a significant role, and I encourage you to experiment if you don't see enough of that granulation. Also, it's sometimes very helpful to just like add a lot of water to really let the pigment kind of disperse and separate and sink into the grooves of the paper. I think I said everything I want to say. I will show you some close-ups when the process video comes to an end. And I think this set is definitely a winner. I always encourage you, though, to kind of perfect any set, any curated set. But if you're newer to the world of watercolors, or you want to try Aquarius watercolors and you're not sure, you're overwhelmed by their quite extensive color range, this is a lovely set to start with because, as I've said already, it gives you a ton of variety. The name is appropriate, and you still get to try some of the unique colors of the brand. So enjoy the rest of the video, and yeah, check out Aquarius. And I also invite you to the Joy Art Club for more art chat and process videos and all those goodies. See you in another video very soon. Make sure you stay for the rest of this video and the close-ups on the delicious granulation so you can just really see what these colors can do. This close-up is actually from a piece that I started after painting the one that you see, and as you will be able to tell, the paper, it's a different paper, and it just shows the granulation a lot less. It's still pretty, but yeah, paper plays a big role. So enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye bye.